Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're heading to the Himalayas, to Nepal specifically.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's going to be here. We're going to be talking about hydropower.
Okay.
Um, and, Nepal is known for these majestic mountains, but also for this incredible untapped resource.
Right.
They have so much potential for hydropower.
Yeah, they do.
Like, picture this, roaring rivers just cascading down these mountains
Yeah.
with, like, the potential to generate enough electricity to power not just Nepal, but,
Wow.
like, a huge chunk of South Asia.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
But here's the thing, though.
Okay.
Despite all this potential, like a quarter of Nepal's population,
Mm.
they still live without electricity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so today we're going to, like, unpack all the complexities of hydropower in Nepal.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll be looking at USAID's involvement,
Okay.
and then also all these allocations of corruption that have been surrounding some of these projects.
Right.
And then, of course, the balance between, energy development and sustainability.
Of course.
Yeah. So,
Well, you mentioned that Nepal has all this potential.
yeah.
Just how much are we talking about here?
Well, Nepal boasts an estimated 40,000 megawatts.
40,000.
40,000 megawatts of potential hydropower capacity.
I mean, what does that actually look like?
Okay, so to put that in perspective,
Okay.
that's basically like the entire hydropower capacity of Canada.
Wow. Canada.
Yeah, so it's a lot
That
of,
puts it into scale.
yeah, a lot of potential.
Yeah.
But, we've got these roadblocks.
Yeah. What are some of those?
Well, I mean, USAID steps in, right,
Right.
to kind of try to help.
Yeah, so tell me about their involvement.
Okay, so USAID recognized
Yeah.
Nepal's potential, and they launched this program
Uh-huh.
called the Nepal Hydropower Development Project.
What a mouthful.
I know, right? NHDP, we'll call it for short.
Okay, NHDP.
NHDP, and this was back in 2015.
Okay.
It was like a multi-pronged initiative aimed at supporting large-scale hydropower projects,
Okay.
but also like strengthening the regulatory framework of
Oh.
Nepal's energy sector.
So it's more than just building dams.
Exactly, yeah.
It's building a whole system.
Yeah, like a sustainable and transparent system for hydropower development.
Okay.
So hopefully harnessing all that potential and bringing electricity to those millions of people who still need it.
Right. It's really ambitious.
It is, yeah.
So this project ran until 2020.
It did, yeah.
Okay, so we'll definitely have to delve into, what came of that. But
Okay.
first, I think we need to talk about this corruption piece.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because that was a big part of what I was reading.
Yeah, there were some serious allegations.
Yeah. What was that all about?
Okay, so specifically I was reading about Energy Minister Deepak Khadka
Okay.
and the Jigdula Hydropower Project.
Okay, and what happened there?
Okay, so the Jigdula project is this 106 megawatt hydropower project,
Okay.
which is significant.
Yeah, definitely.
But the accusations against Minister Khadka, they all kind of revolve around
Yeah.
claims of bid rigging and manipulation during the tendering process.
Oh, so like,
Yeah, so he's accused of using his position to unfairly favor certain companies,
wow.
even allegedly going as far as paying off competitors,
Really?
yeah, to drop out of the bidding.
So essentially like bypassing the whole process.
Exactly.
Wow. And just to benefit himself or his allies.
Right, and potentially lining his own pockets.
Yeah. So what happened after these accusations came to light?
Well, and that's where things get even more murky.
Okay.
Despite the seriousness of these allegations, there hasn't really been any action
From the government.
from the government or even Khadka's own party.
Really?
Yeah, it's like they're reluctant to even acknowledge the issue, let alone, like, investigate it.
Well, that's concerning.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder about, like, the transparency
Yeah.
and the accountability within Nepal's political system.
Yeah. I mean, if something this serious can just be swept under the rug,
Right.
it makes you wonder about their commitment to ethical development.
Exactly. And, these questions, they become even more pressing.
Oh, how so?
Well, when we consider another development that impacted USAID's involvement in Nepal.
Oh, are you talking about the funding freeze?
Yeah, the funding freeze.
I was reading about that.
Yeah, so back in 2025,
Okay.
the Trump administration implemented this funding freeze on USAID.
Why did they do that?
Well, they had expressed concerns about resource allocation.
Okay.
And this freeze, it had a ripple effect
Across
all these different USAID projects globally.
Oh, wow.
And Nepal's hydropower development was not scared.
So what happened?
Several vital projects were stalled, including some under the NHDP.
So basically set them back.
Yeah, and it makes you think, right?
About
Relying on foreign aid for development.
Yeah, because it can be unpredictable.
Yeah, totally a double-edged sword.
Yeah, you need the help, but then you're kind of at the whims of others.
Exactly.
It definitely highlights the need for strong internal systems and
Yeah.
oversight to ensure that aid is used effectively and ethically.
Right, and in a way that benefits the country in the long run.
Yeah.
It's like building a house.
Okay.
You need the right materials,
Yeah.
which in this case could be the aid,
Right.
but you also need that solid foundation, those
Yes.
internal systems and accountability mechanisms.
Otherwise, the whole structure is shaky and
Exactly.
unsustainable.
Totally. And speaking of sustainability,
Okay.
there's another layer to this whole hydropower discussion
Uh-huh.
that we need to think about,
And that is?
the environmental and social impact of these large-scale projects.
Right, because building massive dams
Yeah.
and diverting rivers is going to have consequences.
Of course.
So what are some of the key concerns?
Well, one of the major concerns is indigenous rights violations,
Okay.
particularly in areas like the Lungbasaba landscape.
And what's happening there?
There have been reports of, like, forged signatures
Wow.
on documents and environmental assessments that are falsified,
Oh, wow.
and just, like, a complete lack of consultation with
Right.
the local
Up
communities
to 4.
before they initiate these projects.
So they're not getting consent from the people who are going to be most affected.
Exactly.
Well, that's a problem.
It is.
Because these communities have been stewards of these lands for generations.
Right, and they have this deep understanding of these delicate ecosystems,
Exactly.
and they know the consequences of disrupting them.
Yeah, and their livelihoods and their cultures are intertwined with these landscapes.
Exactly.
So to disregard their voices
Right.
is not only unethical, it's incredibly short-sighted
Totally.
from a development perspective.
Wow, it seems like we've uncovered a lot here.
It is a lot.
A lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Corruption, funding instability, and this urgent need for a more sustainable and ethical
Right.
approach to development.
Yeah.
I'm ready to dive even deeper.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so we've got all this potential for clean energy,
Right.
but it's tangled up in these challenges.
Yeah, like you said, corruption, funding and protecting communities,
Exactly.
and the environment.
So where do we even begin to, like, untangle all of this?
Well, I think addressing the corruption issue is like the first step.
Make sense?
You can't build anything sustainable
Yeah.
without a solid foundation.
It's like building a house on sand.
Exactly.
Not going to work.
You need strong institutional frameworks.
So what would that look like?
Well, you need independent regulatory bodies
Okay.
that have actual authority.
With teeth.
Yeah, like watchdog with
That's it.
teeth.
Ready to bite if it has to.
But creating these institutions is only part of it, right?
Right. You also need a culture shift.
Okay.
You need to move away from this sense of impunity.
Yeah, where it's like,
Yeah, like it doesn't
get
matter.
away with it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you need a commitment to transparency
Okay.
where information about projects
Yeah.
is available to the public.
So like the open access.
Yeah, and empowering citizens to demand that accountability.
So it's not just on the institutions.
Right. It's a shared responsibility.
It's everyone.
Yeah, okay. And that can actually help with attracting international investors, too.
Oh, how so?
Well, because they might be hesitant if they think it's a corrupt system.
Yeah, makes sense.
They want to see that transparency.
But what about the communities that are like directly impacted by these projects?
Right.
How do we make sure that they have a say?
That's where the free, prior, and informed consent comes in.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Right, and it's not just about like checking boxes.
Right.
It's about meaningful consultation,
Okay.
where communities really understand the impacts.
Both.
Both the good and the bad.
And they have a chance to say no.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
It's about building trust and respect.
So no more backroom deals.
No more pressure tactic.
Okay, I like that.
It's about making sure that hydropower doesn't come at the cost of cultural heritage.
Right.
Or displace people from their lands.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the funding side of things.
Okay.
Because we saw what happened with that USAID funding freeze.
Right, that was a big setback.
Yeah, it was.
So how do we make it more sustainable?
Yeah, how do we not be so reliant on foreign aid?
I think diversifying partnerships is key.
Okay.
You know, looking beyond traditional aid.
So who else could be involved?
Well, you can involve the private sector,
Right.
attract responsible investors.
Who are committed to sustainability.
Exactly.
So it's like diversifying an investment portfolio.
Oh, exactly.
Spread the risk.
Right.
Okay, what else?
Well, regional partnerships are important too.
Oh, okay, like with their neighbors?
Yeah, like India and Bangladesh.
Working together?
Yeah, creating a regional energy market.
Okay, so we've talked about tackling corruption,
Right.
empowering communities, diversifying funding.
Uh-huh.
But what about the environment?
Right, we can't forget about that.
Because these massive projects, they have an impact.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing to make sure that we're protecting the environment?
Well, I think it starts with really understanding the impacts.
Okay.
Conducting thorough environmental impact assessments.
And considering all the potential consequences.
Yes, not just the economic benefits.
Okay.
What are some of the things we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, what are the concerns?
Well, one of the major concerns is how dams alter river flow patterns.
Oh, okay, so it's not just where the dam is built.
Right, it affects everything downstream.
So like fish migration,
Yeah,
agriculture.
exactly.
Wow.
And then there's habitat fragmentation.
So what does that mean?
Well, it means that the dam creates barriers for wildlife,
Oh, yeah.
disrupting their movement.
So like we're building a wall through a forest,
Exactly.
animals can't get through.
Right, and that can really hurt biodiversity.
And then there's the sediment issue,
Oh,
too.
right, because dams trap sediment that would normally flow downstream,
Oh, okay.
and that can affect the fertility of the land.
So it's a really complex system.
It is.
It's not just about building a dam and getting electricity.
Right, you have to think about the whole ecosystem
Yeah.
and how everything is connected.
So how do we balance all of this?
Well, I think innovation is key. There are new ways to build dams
That are better for the environment?
that take into account these environmental flows,
Okay.
fish passage, sediment management.
So we can still get the power,
Yeah,
but without destroying the environment.
exactly. Finding that sweet spot
I like that.
where we can benefit, but also protect.
It's a tough balance,
It is.
but it seems like there's at least more awareness now.
Yeah, I think people are starting to understand.
The complexity
Yeah, and that the old way of doing things,
doesn't work.
it's not sustainable.
It feels like we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to this.
Yeah.
But we have talked about a lot,
Yeah.
the potential, the challenges.
Right.
And I think the important thing is there's this growing movement towards solutions.
Yeah. And more sustainable
Yes.
and ethical approaches.
Exactly.
It's like we're at a crossroads.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
On one path, we have clean energy for millions of people.
Yeah.
But on the other path, we have like the same mistakes.
Yeah, just
It's the
repeating
same mistakes.
short-term gains over long-term sustainability.
Exactly.
So the question is, can Nepal
Yeah.
find that balance?
Right. Can they have energy independence?
Yeah.
That's both like economically viable
Right.
and ethically sound.
Because those two things don't have to be at odds.
Yeah.
It's not just about Nepal, though.
Right. This is a global question.
Yeah, any country, any project,
Yeah.
anytime we're talking about development.
How do we find that sweet spot
Right, where we can meet our needs.
without compromising the future?
Exactly.
So for you, what are the biggest takeaways from all of this?
I think for me, it's transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
Shining a light on these issues,
Yeah.
whether it's corruption, environmental impacts.
Yeah.
That's the first step to addressing them.
Right. So it's not just on the government.
Well, right, it's on all of us.
It's the citizens, too.
Yeah, staying informed, engaged.
Holding people accountable. What else?
Well, we can't just look at things from an economic perspective. We
Yeah.
have to think about the social and environmental costs, too.
Right. Because those costs are real.
Oh, yeah.
They're just often hidden.
Yeah, they're harder to measure sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need strong safeguards.
Environmental and social.
Yes, and not just on paper.
Right. They have to be enforced.
Yeah, we have to actually implement them.
It's like a shift in mindset
Yes, from development at any cost.
to sustainable development.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think to do that, we need innovation.
Okay.
New technologies, new approaches.
New ways of thinking about development.
Right, and ways that work with nature.
And benefit local communities.
yeah, exactly.
It's a tall order.
It is.
But it feels like we're moving in the right direction.
I think so. I'm hopeful.
So for our listener out there,
yeah.
what's the one thing they should take away from this?
Stay informed,
Okay.
stay engaged,
Yeah.
and ask questions.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, whether it's in your community or across the world,
Yeah.
demand transparency, demand accountability,
Yeah.
demand better.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected
Yes,
and that our choices have an impact
exactly. We all have a responsibility.
to create a better world.
Yes, for everyone, for the planet.
Well, I think that's a great place to end.
Yeah.
A call to action.
Yes.
We all have a role to play.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
It was great having you.
Thanks for having me.
And to our listener, thank you for taking the time to learn with us and engage with us. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for that better future.
Yes.
We'll see you next time.